my first night staying there, I was in the living room and a phone rang in the basement, and there was a black phone on the wall that was ringing.
Would you like to see a magic trick?
Yeah.
You know, 90% working with Scott Derrickson. I was interested before just to get an email from him that I was on his mind to maybe collaborate with again. Sinister was a special movie in my career. It was a really challenging performance, and it kind of reawakened my love of genre movies. I was turning 40 at that time, and it kind of opened the door to a different kind of character. And so I was just inclined to want to work with him again. I don't really like playing villains. I don't really like inviting that kind of evil into my imagination and dancing with it. It's not something that floats my boat, as they used to say. But I read this script, and it was so beautiful. The kid's journey was so beautiful, and I could kind of see how this might be something new and different for me, and I could contribute in a different way.
Working with Scott was so amazing.
Yeah.
He was always, the best thing about him was probably that he was always there for us if we ever needed to talk, if we were nervous about
if we
doing
needed, like,
an intense scene.
Yeah, he like one time for maybe a really emotional scene in this film, I asked for, 5 minutes of my trailer just to get ready. He said, yes, of course. So he really knows how to make an actor feel comfortable and make them feel safe, and he's just such a nice person. I'm so fortunate for everything he's done for me.
Joe Hill's short story was interesting to me because it combined a serial killer story with a ghost story, which I'd never seen done before. But I also thought it was an interesting opportunity to make a scary horror film that still had a lot of empathy and heart and almost inspiration because it's a true coming-of-age story. And when I thought about combining that with my own memories growing up in North Denver in 1978, I thought there was an interesting film to be made, and that's how this movie came about.
Scott has that beautiful combination, which is being completely prepared and completely open to a better idea. A lot of people who are really prepared can't even hear other ideas because they're so threatened by them. But Scott's got the right kind of confidence, which is that he's completely open because he knows he's got some good ideas. Maybe there's a better one.
I was really starting to like you, Finny. I almost let you go.
I kind of saw him as like a broken circuit board. It's like his brain was broken and the wires didn't connect, and there were sparks falling, and sometimes it seemed like it could function, and other times it just didn't function. And the more I thought about somebody who would do something like the actions that he takes, the less I understood him. There was no way to make sense out of him. Obviously there's some brutal trauma there. Obviously there's some immense shame at work. And what is driving it is mysterious. And I just decided to throw myself at it. The script is really well built. Scott's really confident about how to tell a story. And I loved that I wasn't asked to give all the answers. A lot of times I think movies make a huge mistake in trying to say too much exposition. My characters, it's not a portrait of the grabber. You're seeing the grabber from the point of view of this young kid. And so it was just important how I impact him.
Well, the grabber's very mysterious. We don't get into his backstory. To me, the best villains, like Heath Ledger's the Joker, these are characters who very little about, bits and pieces, but you certainly don't ever get any scene or any story that explains why they are so monstrous. So I think there's an element of mystery to them, but I think in the case of the grabber, I think his need to wear a mask, his need to hide himself, but also to have collected these masks or built these masks that allow for partial reveals at times is really interesting. And I think that most importantly, this ritualistic pattern that he has for abducting his victims and putting them through a period of time of breaking them down with these things that he does is really harrowing. And that allowed Ethan, I think, to create a manner of speaking, a manner of expressing. And I felt like he took the story on wholeheartedly and came to set with an understanding of the grabber that certainly superseded my understanding of him. I mean, I wrote the words and I gave him the masks, but how he speaks, how he gesticulates, you know, how he moves, where he stands, all of these things were things that Ethan knew how to do. And the result is, I think, a pretty memorable villain.
The mask it ended up being just absolutely essential and terrifying to the work, and I would just put on that mask and I felt different. You get yourself in that situation and then all of a sudden it becomes real to you. And Scott put so much thought into how that mask should function, and when it should be the mouth and when it should be the eyes and when this side of the face and when, you know, I loved how hypnotic it becomes. He's always hiding a different aspect of himself or wanting to reveal a different aspect.
I mean, he's so amazing to watch in person. You know, when he has that mask on, his eyes are just so terrifying, and he did such an amazing job, and I was so fortunate to, you know, be doing scenes with him, and I would love to work with him again.
My brother, he was taken.
By man with black balloons.
I had a dream about it. Please let the dreams be real.
I knew pretty instantly after our first rehearsal that Mason was going to do a great job, because his head's in the right place. He loves movies, he loves performing, he understands the language of film, and he knew how to listen to Scott, and he knew when to listen to himself. All those tough things, but the movie rests on those two young people's backs. I mean, they're the heart and soul of it.
Yeah, they're both remarkable. The bond between the two of them is the soul of the movie. You learn very quickly in the film, in the first half hour, how and why they're so connected, because they live in a dangerous world. They live in a world where there's a lot of fighting, there's a lot of bullying. They live in a violent household where their alcoholic father is abusive, but they've got each other, and they really look out for each other. And so when the separation occurs because of this abduction by this monstrous figure, the bond still exists between them, and that becomes the source of hope that sustains the film.
Well, I think that, you know, the heart of the film is definitely Finney and Gwen's relationship, so definitely seeing that is what keeps you, you know, invested in the characters and why they love each other so much.
But I think that's one of the ways I can actually really relate to Gwen, is because she would do anything to protect her siblings and make sure nothing happens to them, and I would do the same with my siblings.
Yeah, and I feel like the reason why they have such a strong connection is because, you know, they lost their mother at a young age and their father is a drunk, so they kind of have to depend on each other.
Yeah.
Don't hang up.
Who are you?
After we wrapped the movie, my house, the house I had lived in for years, burned down in a Southern California fire in 2018. So I'd been living in an apartment. I lived in an apartment while I shot The Black Phone. And when I got home, I bought a house for the first time in years. And my first night staying there, I was in the living room and a phone rang in the basement. It's a very dark, dank, dirt floor basement. And I was upset, obviously, but I, went down with a flashlight and there was a black phone on the wall that was ringing. And I went and answered it, and it was Jason Blum. And that guy managed to get somebody to install a black phone in my basement without me knowing it, and then called me on it. And he has it set to where if I just pick the phone up, it just automatically dials his cell phone. So it's still there. I kept it. It's
honestly such an honor, and
yeah.
Looking back and how much work we put into it, and looking at what we accomplished when we saw it, it's insane. And I really hope that when it comes out and everyone sees it, I hope everyone enjoys it.
You're gonna use a weapon.
You are special, Finney.
Please hurry!
Ooh, the creepiest damn thing.
别忘了订阅我们的频道，打开小铃铛就不
错过任何精彩内容，随时上架。我们下回再见。